Okay, round two. So the first round we had a draw. It was a difficult draw to achieve, but we did make a draw in the end. So now we're going into this round, hoping for to finally achieve a win for the first time in a very, very long time. When we're playing D4, D4, D5, C4, C6, knight f3, knight f6, e3. So against the Slav this tournament, I was going for a more sort of passive setup, um, just to avoid some sharper lines. In this game, my opponent playing e6 is really not interested in any of the more sharp lines anyway. So I probably could have gotten um, a more aggressive position with bishop g5 and not hit any of those sharp theoretical lines anyway. But okay, we have the position we have: knight c3, bishop e7, bishop d3. My opponent captures on c4, which is probably fine, and then plays b5, bishop d3, bishop e7. So uh, this position for black is probably a little bit dubious because you're getting the space on the queen side, but you're sort of also overextending. The pawn on b5 is attacked, so you're in order to play c5, which is the move that black wants to play to open the bishop and attack the center, you're gonna have to spend some time with a6. And you're still not castled. I am now in this position, and if you want to castle you can, but you also still have some development issues. So probably black needs to be a little precise with the way that he develops the pieces in the next few moves. Knight d7 allows e4, and after e4 I'm going to have I have this very nice center, but I'm also planning to play e5, and on e5 I'm going to have this attack on the king side. You can see all of my pieces are sort of aimed over there. Um, and I have this pawn e5 is a very important wedge pawn for a lot of the game because my opponent castles right into it. Um, so that's sort of like how this attack it becomes possible. But the idea of the pawn on e5, whether or not castling it is occurring, is that the pawn on f7 is it's much more difficult to move it, especially if I have like a rook on e1 or a queen on e2 or some heavy piece on the e file, because after takes, then the e6 pawn will be hit. And f6 is sort of the move that black is going to want to play in order to try to keep things, or a five, in order to get some counterplay as I'm uh, pursuing this attack. So castles e5, and after knight d5, I felt like I was probably close to winning. I don't know what I'm expecting the computer evaluation to be in this point, but I think that castling cannot be a good move, and I think that uh, the position is probably plus 1 point something, 1.3, 1.4 maybe. Uh, Maybe higher, but 1.3, 1.4 is sort of how I was evaluating the position in my mind at this time. And there are many moves that I can try to play in this position. Knight takes d5 for one, because you can't take with the c pawn, it hangs the b5 pawn. Um, and on e takes, you're basically giving me the ability to play e6 whenever I would like. I thought maybe it was a little bit rushed. Maybe c5 could be some counterplay, although still the b5 pawn is hanging. Um, but it felt a little bit rushed to me. I felt like I have the e4 square already, right? Like I don't need to let black control the e4 square, because I might want to use it for a knight, or even as I try to do in the game, I play queen e2. If I can play queen e4 and provoke a move like g6 and then play queen g4, h4, h5, whatever it might be, felt like a very good position for me. And the knight on d5 doesn't really have like squares. So my opponent takes on c3, which I think also has to be an inaccuracy. I don't think that's an accurate move. It allows me to solidify my center pawns. The d4 pawn was sort of a weakness. It wasn't really that weak, but it was sort of like the weakness in my position. And now it's solidified with a pawn. So now if black wants to do something about this, center b4 will have to be played, which is not really it's not a fast-paced move, and my attack on the king side is going to come very fast. Meanwhile, c5 is still not possible because of the b5 pawn. So here I think I'm winning. I would not be surprised if white is just completely winning in this position. +2, +2 point something. Um, H5, which is just it's one of those moves that you look at and you're like, like how are you playing this move? Um, it's just like when you're being attacked, generally the pawns being closer to your king is good. You have this is now a permanent weakness out here. I can move my knight anywhere and it gets attacked. And in order to defend it, you have to play g6. So now not only have you played like in this position, you could have just played g6 and then you have this pawn on g6 is defended a couple of times. It makes sacrifices much less possible. The point of h5 is to stop my idea of queen e4 to g4. Now, if I play queen e4, then g6 will occur, and it's unclear what I really want after that. Maybe at some point the bishop will get defended, and then c5 can happen. In this game, I determined that the best thing that I could do is to play knight d2, and after g6, f4. So I go for this plan, and my knight can either go back to f3. It has access to the e4 square. At some point, maybe I can play f5. In fact, after my opponent's next move, king g7, I really considered a piece sacrifice with f5. I would not be surprised if this piece sacrifice is just winning for white. If I played f5, you can imagine the g pawn can't really take it. I'm threatening f6, so you would have to play e takes. And then I was really considering like this move, bishop takes, and then after takes, queen takes, h5. And just the idea of like, if your rook goes to h8, then I'm taking this thing and hitting this. This pawn is very strong. It's preventing all the minor pieces from getting into the game. Um, it's possible that like something like this could happen. Queen g8. Uh, maybe like it might be like one of those slow attacks where like it's just very difficult for black to unwind. Something like this could happen maybe. Actually, I'm hanging a knight, so queen g8 can't occur because I'm hanging a knight. Um, so yeah, it's a really difficult position. I would not be surprised if this was just completely winning actually. Um, In the game, though, I determine like why do I have to rush and sacrifice a piece? My position is really good. I'll just play g4. G4, I would not be surprised if it threw away a significant amount of the advantage. Um, I would not be surprised if this position is like +3, and then now this position I've lost like half of it. I still think that white is significantly better, but this is not this was not a necessary move. I should be calculating f5 further, I think. Um, I calculated, bishop takes a 5, pawn takes a 5, queen takes h5. I looked at that line and I saw that there was probably some way that he could defend a pawn. Why am I sacrificing a piece? And so I just didn't. But like if I calculated further, I would not be surprised if it's just a good move. Um, so yeah, in the game though, g4, he takes it and plays f5, which I honestly was not in my on my radar at all. I felt like g4 was going to let me play f5 next. And if he takes it, now I can still play f5 because the g pawn is pinned. So I was looking at, how king can't really get out of the pin without going to the h file. And then if it goes to the h file, I can throw in like queen g3 check. The king has to go back. Maybe king f2, rook g1, something can happen. It felt like this should be good for me now that I have uh f5 is going to come anyway, and now it doesn't sacrifice a piece, so that felt good. But then this move f5, and the reason that I saw that it was possible, but I just like saw rook takes his force, and then knight e4 wins an exchange, and I just felt like okay, like this he's not gonna play this. But the exchange sacrifice actually is pretty resilient for black. So after e takes, rook takes, knight e4, rook goes to f5, and now I have to play knight g3 if I want to win the exchange. After knight f6, it's like a pretty solid setup, even though you're going to be an exchange down. My king is sort of exposed because I've played g4 and f4. This bishop might become a monster on this diagonal. So I was starting to see some issues with the position. In the game, I played queen e2 because the rook is trapped, so I'm not in a rush to take it. That said, um, maybe I should take it now and force e takes f5, because in the game after queen e2, a move to defend the pawn. Now I give my opponent the option to play g takes, and now my king on g1 is sort of feeling the heat from the bishop on b7 and also from a rook coming to the g file. So I realize I have to sort of be careful now, even though I'm an exchange up. Uh, I play rook f3 in order to play rook g3 and just say, okay, at least I have the g file covered. My opponent brings the king out of the way. I play rook g3 and then rook h8, now rook g8 trading. Here I was looking briefly at queen g2. Queen g2, though, there's just rook h7, I think. And on rook h7, I'm not really threatening anything, and now c5 is going to come with a tempo. So I definitely don't want to allow c5 to occur on uh, unfavorable terms, because if that happens, I am possibly just worse, if not losing. Even up the exchange, the rooks are clumsy. My rook on a1 is not developed. My bishop on c1 is still sort of in the way and doesn't really have a good square to go to. Sort of a bad bishop at this point in the game. So there's some risk. In the game, I played bishop e3 in order to meet c3 with taking it. Uh, like I'm in this position. I'm very scared about ideas of like c5, and then if I take on d5, there's queen d5, and I don't really have a good way of meeting that. I had even gotten as desperate in the game at this point to consider like rook b1, c5, rook takes b5, queen d5, rook takes b7. Like I was desperate enough that I was considering sacrificing the exchange immediately back for the bishop on b7. So yeah, in the game I play bishop e3, and my opponent plays knight g4 and offers a draw. So knight g4 is uh possibly a strong move. I'm not totally sure, but what it does is it allows me to clarify the position in a way that I feel much more comfortable, right? So I want to take the knight. This is how I do it in the game. I take the knight and play bishop e4. Now my bishop is on the long diagonal. The G file is no longer open, so my king is much safer. I mean, my king went from being like really feeling unsafe and scared to being there's like barely any way that it can even be checked. It's like it's really hard to get at my king at this point. And the diagonal I've now controlled. C5 is still under control. I have and I also have plans to maneuver around. I'm going to put my bishop on g3. I'm going to put my queen on e3, and I'm going to play for f5 because now the black king is actually a little bit more exposed and open to being checked. The pawn structure was also destroyed in the process of this occurring. So this is what I did. Rook g8. I just play bishop f2 to stop any g3 ideas. Um, the pawn here wasn't even attacked because there's rook g8 winning my queen. But okay, rook g8, bishop f2. I was feeling good about that move. Bishop d6. Now I have two options. I can either play bishop g3 first, or I can play queen e3 first. And then, if queen c7, I play the other one. I decided that I should play queen e3 because I really don't want to allow c5 at any cost. And just it just felt like I shouldn't allow the counterplay if there's an option not to. And I'm gonna play both moves at some point. So I start with queen e3, queen c7, then bishop g3. This position probably could have happened either way, um, but I just didn't want to allow c5. a5, and my opponent offers another draw. This one I think makes less sense because now I feel like I am just winning. I play rook f1 fairly quickly. And I'm going to play f5. I thought maybe my opponent could play king e7. I looked at a line after king e7, actually, that went bishop f5, like bishop c8, rook e1, queen d7, and then I thought that I would just check. But there's king f7, and the game is not really over. Maybe I can play like here, uh, rook h8, and then like f5. I don't really know about this, but something like this felt like I might be doing well. Actually, here in this position, there's queen f5, so maybe I'm not doing that well. But I would have calculated something something better. King e7 felt like the best try to me in the game. Rook f8, and I think after f5, it's just the end of the game because now I'm threatening to take on e6. You can't do anything about it. My queen is also like okay in this position. It's really interesting like to think about it this way. In this position, my pawn on f4 is blocking my bishop, it's blocking my queen, and it's blocking my rook, and those are all my pieces. Uh, and now after f5, all the pieces are free and the king is just sitting right there. So after f5, this has to be completely winning. I think rook f8 is a losing move. Maybe a5 is a losing move even. I'm not totally sure. Maybe position was already lost, but somewhere between somewhere between here and where I play f5 of all of Black's moves didn't make sense to me. I mean, they made sense. I could see why Black was playing those moves, but they all felt like they were leading to a lost position, and I was just playing very natural moves in response, and suddenly the position is just winning. So definitely taking on g4. I think my opponent must have underestimated how strong my position would be after I sacrificed the exchange back. A lot of times people forget when they're like down material that their opponent can give the material back to get a favorable position. That's one of the benefits of being up material is that you can give it back in ways that give you a very nice position. Um, so yeah, in this position f5, I think is winning. Bishop takes g3. I throw in takes on e6, which is an important move. If king takes e6, I have so many different discoveries. I also have queen h6 check. So king e6, king e7 was tried. But now queen g5 check, and I force the king to take on e6. I play a couple checks and then take the rook. And after bishop h2, king h1, my opponent throws in the towel because there's no counterplay, and the king on e6 will be mated probably in a few moves, maybe sooner. So I was very happy about this game. For one, because it was the first game that I had won in 13 games. 14 games. So I was very happy to win a game, showed myself that I could still do that. And also, it just felt like it was very clean. I mean, I won an exchange and there was some counterplay. There was definitely like some moments where I was scared, but I don't think that I ever gave my opponent time to be better in those lines. It felt like just out of the opening with this e4, I was doing quite well. So now we get to look at it with the machine, which I'm very excited to do, especially for this one. So we get this position where my opponent is playing sort of passively. b5, bishop goes to d3, which is correct. Bishop b7. Already I can play e4, but castling is a fine move. Knight d7, and now yeah, e4 is the correct plan. It sort of makes sense because like what else am I really gonna do? I could start with a3 just to stop b4 ideas, but e4 needs to be played. Castling is an inaccuracy. What did I say this position was going to be? Like 1.3? 1.2, 1.3? Yeah, it's pretty close. It's over 1. Uh, and then it has to go to e8. So it actually is 1.5 after 95. So yeah, it felt like this position was pretty much winning for me already. I just have too many squares. I have too many pieces aimed at the king. I have the advanced pawn on e5 that's difficult to counter. Um, Queen e2 though is not given as a great move, actually because of knight takes c3. So I don't fully understand the position. That's what that shows me because knight takes d5 I understood was good. I knew well actually I was looking at e takes. So what is the issue with e takes? Now queen e2. Why is queen e2 so much stronger after now I don't even have the e4 square. Why is this so much stronger now? What am I doing? Like let's just say this is a bad move, but let's just say like a6, e6, right? So that makes sense. So rook e8, still e6. I'm just playing e6, I guess. I guess by force I'm playing e6. Whereas after queen e2, this allows this capture, which I thought was good for me. I really didn't think this was playable uh, for black. I guess c5 sacrificing the b5 pawn is an important resource. You just need to get active with black. I mean, the pawn, yes, it's going to be a pawn down, but at least you're going to be able to take on d4, and you'll be able to play against the that pawn there, and you'll have an open bishop on the diagonal. You're just going to have a lot more play than you do in the game after. I mean, h5 is just a crazy move to me. I really, I really don't understand what my opponent's thoughts were on this move. Knight d2 is not the most accurate move, but it's a perfectly valid move. But maybe this plan with f4, f5 is not right. In fact, yeah, c5 and black has an edge. Um, I mean, I knew that black should always be playing c5. I just thought, I guess I'm a little bit too materialistic in these positions. I'm thinking, okay, c5, I'm just gonna take on b5. He'll take on d4. I'll recapture knight b6, and then I can just like play knight f3 or knight b3 or something. And it's just, I have this extra pawn on d4. But the pawn on d4 is really not so much to write home about. Um, c5 is a good move, and if my opponent was a stronger player, he would have gone for this. Yeah, king g7. I should f5. F5 makes a lot of sense. I was looking at this line. I mean, I just didn't play it because I thought, why do I have to do this? Uh, yeah, either rook takes f5, queen takes h5. I was looking at both moves. Knight e4. I was not looking at that one, but I was looking at these for sure. Rook h8, queen takes f5, and it's just a slow attack. Rook h7 is not a move I was considering at all. How does rook h7 work after queen takes f7? King h8, black is better. Fantastic. I love this. Makes me feel like an idiot. Uh, it's just like I would never look at this sort of thing, and I don't know. Hopefully, I don't need to see those sorts of moves to be a national master. I don't know. Probably do. Um, G4, I felt like, yeah, throws sort of my advantage away, but I honestly thought my advantage was still here. I felt like my advantage was not zero after takes the best continuation. Rook h8. Yeah, I was looking at rook h8. I thought I would be able to play f5. But I'm sure there's like rook h4 or something there. Nope, not that. Knight takes e5. Fantastic. Takes and my bishop hangs. Yeah, so that was another tactic that I missed. And that my opponent missed, luckily, because now, yeah, this is sort of the evaluation of the position that I was expecting this game to be the whole way through, like +1 around. Um, Missing stuff all over the place, but luckily opponent is missing the same things. Rook f5, knight g3, knight f6. Yeah, here I should just take out f5, I think. Queen e2 is a fine move also, but queen e2 allows uh, black to take with the g pawn. Now the machine is actually preferring it. So I don't know. I guess queen e2 is the better move, but in the game after queen d7, I felt like after taking it, well now, yeah, so this is why, right? Because now I'm not supposed to take it. I'm just supposed to play rook e1 and king f7. Like, how does this line go? Rook e1, king f7, a4. Beautiful. What a beautiful concept. A4. Just helping develop the bishop. Amazing. Like, what happens if like any move? Like, I'm just gonna put a move on the board. Rook Rook a2. Uh, yeah, sometimes you see stuff like this and it's like, I don't know. I mean, where's the rook going on a2? Why do I want it there? What is the purpose of it being on a2? Why do I make bishop d6 with rook a2? Where's it going? I don't know the answer to this. It would probably take a very long time, longer than I have in this video, to figure out why this is the way it should be. But the important thing is after knight takes uh, f5 here, g takes f5, black actually is better. So this is why I was saying that instead of queen e2, I should play knight takes f5 first, force e takes, and now I'm up in exchange, and my king is not like really. This position is already hard for white to play, so I play the right continuation, rook f3, rook g3, but I have to be very careful, which I was really feeling in the game. Um, this is a very nice maneuver to put the rook on g3. Rook h8 is a very good move. Yeah, and now I was yeah, the rook b1 idea is actually not crazy. Rook b1, if c5, rook takes, and then maybe I just give it for is this the line? Like if c5, rook takes b5, queen d5, rook takes b7. Yeah, this is not a crazy line. This was a line that I had looked at one point in the game. Rook b1 is pretty good. But bishop e3 is what I landed on because it felt more ambitious, I guess. Stop aiming to stop c5 by taking it, or maybe even taking on b5. I wasn't totally sure what I was going to take. Hopefully I would have taken this one, because if I take this one, there's maybe queen d5, queen d5. What was I going to do on queen d5? Because I'm pretty sure I was thinking about taking this thing. No, no, no. Sorry. I was not going to take this thing. The point of bishop e3 was so I could take this, and now if you ever take on d4, I can take with the bishop. This was the point. Yeah, if this move, I was just going to play queen g2 and sacrifice the exchange. This was my plan, which I failed to mention in the analysis, but I this was what I was looking up. Um, and then yeah, after bishop e3 though, knight g4, and now yeah, I correctly realized that this knight can be taken with advantage for white, which I'm happy about. It just makes the position way easier to play to do this, and f5 is a move, and I'm sure that it's what I should be playing in this position, but even this move felt pretty good for me. Um, I guess black still has enough play with c5 to claim that there's too much going on for white to be better. So yeah, this whole game, black should be playing c5, which is pretty obvious when you're looking at it, because the whole position is like black really just needs to get this diagonal going. But I felt like now that I got the bishop here, I shouldn't be that much worse, if at all. I feel like I shouldn't be worse, really. Rook g8 is a terrible move. Bishop f2 is a fine response. Bishop d6, queen e3 is fine. Queen c7, bishop g3. a5 is the losing move, I guess, but position is every move. Like I was saying, every move since I took the knight until I play f5 is black is playing subpar moves. Rook f8 is definitely bad also. King e7 is better try. Um, f5, and now I think yeah, it's just busted. Bishop takes, fe, king e7, queen g5 check. And yeah, picking up the rook is not the fastest, but it is good enough. King h1. And black will be mated shortly. So, similar to the first game in the sense that I was missing a lot of stuff, but my opponent was also missing the same sorts of things. So it gave me the feeling that I was playing a much better, much higher quality game than I was, which is very interesting. And maybe this is also something that's interesting that I've been thinking about. Maybe if I was looking at this game with the machine after, it would have impacted uh my headspace going into the next round, and just all the next rounds, because in my head I had just played two pretty high quality games. Uh I didn't know I didn't know that knight g4 was like a losing move in the first game. I didn't know that I was worse in this game. I felt that there was a lot of pressure. I was thinking, I guess I was thinking maybe I could be worse um, after I won the exchange, but it didn't feel like I should really be that much. I'm up in exchange. Probably another pattern is that I'm a little bit materialistic when it comes to these sorts of positions. When I don't know, like there's some active counterplay. Black can play c5 at any point in this game and get some sort of advantage or play, and it would become very difficult for me to play. And a stronger player would do that. They would play c5, and I would realize that they're sacrificing a pawn. But can I take it? Probably not, and things would go very poorly for me. So that's definitely something that I need to improve on, and I'm interested in seeing if that's a pattern in the rest of these games. So stay tuned to see for yourself as well. We'll see round three in the next video, and yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thanks.